Welcome to Engage Your Tribe, a podcast about the art and science of audience engagement. I'm Jeremy Shere, and my guest is Scott Thomas, Senior VP of Marketing at WorthPoint. Scott, it's great to have you on the show.
Hey, Jeremy, thanks for inviting me. I've been looking forward to speaking with you today.
You're very welcome. So tell us a little bit about your background in marketing and about WorthPoint.
Sure. My background, I will tell people I'm a career marketer. So I've had the opportunity throughout my career to work in a variety of different verticals. I started in contact lenses as a brand marketing guy a number of years ago. I don't want to say how many. And from there, evolved to work on Ray-Ban sunglasses, and I worked for a Coca-Cola company, which is what brought me to Atlanta. And from there, really had the chance to switch to a little bit more digital focus. At Coke, I launched some of our first web-based promotions, as well as actually the first Code Under the Cap promotion.
Oh, really?
At Powerade as part of my responsibility. And at the time, we had a bit of an advantage because the cap was larger. Although today that's standard fare, but that's really what diverted my career a little bit, or guided my career from just strictly a brand approach to looking at more of a digital approach. Although now I kind of feel like saying digital marketing is sort of like saying radio marketing. It
Right.
is what we do. But that's really where I got that focus. Since most recently, I was with Cartoon Network as head of marketing for North America for them. And then at that point, I decided to pivot my career and move to smaller businesses and helping them grow or helping them establish product marketing or marketing in general. And I was with AutoTrader for a few years. They were merging AutoTrader, Kelley Blue Book, and Dealer.com. From there, went to a fintech firm called Cabbage, which was recently acquired, about a year and a half ago, was acquired by American Express. And then from there, that's how I ended up with WorthPoint. And I've been here just about a year and a half.
Okay, wow, you've had a really wide array of experiences and quite a cool journey. So, and now you're at WorthPoint. So tell us about WorthPoint.
Yeah, so WorthPoint is a bootstrap company. We've been around 15 years. And if listeners aren't familiar with the term bootstrap, just to let you know, we're a startup that never had that big investment from, a SoftBank or a Morgan Stanley. There's our founder and a few small investors, and over time managed the company right out the get-go, where we weren't spending out over the tips. So, the company grew somewhat slowly as a result. And then in the last probably 3 years, we've really enjoyed just some amazing growth, 40, 50% year over year consistently. And that's part of how I ended up here.
Okay, very cool. So now you guys have a podcast, I'm happy to report.
Yes.
And it's called Flip It or Skip It. Love that name. Great podcast title. So tell us about the podcast. Like, what's the show about and what's the format?
Yeah. So, and I could back up just even a little bit on that, is to let you know, when I started with WorthPoint, they brought me in to establish marketing as a discipline. So the company being slowly grown, they were kind of just homegrown with marketing efforts and really just focusing on optimizing our databases for organic traffic. And as we started to see that nice growth curve, they brought me in to be more proactive with our marketing. And so again, about a year and a half ago, when I first started, two long-term employees, a woman by the name of Dana Crawford, and one of our lead editors and content creators, Wayne Jordan, came to me, and they are both professionals in our space. And I didn't mention earlier up front that WorthPoint is started out as a price guide. So if you were buying or selling on eBay or collector of antiques or collectibles, you could find what any item sold for most recently at auction. And really in the world, we have a global database of over 650 million items and prices. So our audience is really started out as collectors and antique dealers, and then we kind of grew to resellers. And so Dana and Wayne represent both of those audiences. So Dana is a is a professional eBay reseller, and she has her own business called Power Selling Mom, although she is a full-time employee with WorthPoint now, but she evolved into that. And Wayne as well, he's got over 40 years experience in the antiques business. He's a licensed auctioneer and has been with Antique Trader and a few others. So he's very well known in the antiques and collectibles business as well, and certainly has a passion for it. So kind of bring around to the original question, how do we get started? Is they came to me and they said, hey, we'd love to do a podcast that speaks to people who are interested in antiques and collectibles. And they both have just such an amazing background and deep bench of experience that I thought that was just a great idea. And this is really when I was just trying to establish marketing at WorthPoint. So I wish I could say it was my idea, but they came to me and said, hey, we think we could do this. And we talked it through and we decided to brand it separate from WorthPoint because both of their experiences, they bring so much beyond just what they do at WorthPoint that we thought that it would have a little bit more authenticity and would reflect really the content that they were bringing better if we had it as a separate brand, if you will, or title. So it's Flip It or Skip It is its own podcast, its own website, and then it's brought to you by or sponsored by WorthPoint.
Okay.
And we work hard to make sure that the content is, authentic information and helpful information for people who are buying and selling antiques or interested in the collectibles industry. We try to make it fun. The two of them have their kind of very different personalities. Wayne's a little bit more serious and direct, and Dana's, a little bit bubblier, and they just come together in this really fun way. And they bring up really interesting topics each week. So we just launched our 56th episode, and the engagement with it has just been same thing with the company. Is just tracking beautifully. We're around 18,000 downloads now, but 2,000 of those happened in the last month.
Oh, very nice.
Give you an idea of the acceleration that we're seeing, which is nice.
Mm-hmm. And I think, and you said you're episode 56, something like that?
Yep.
Okay.
56.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And it can take a little while for a podcast to catch on. Right?
Yes.
You can't just quit after a couple episodes if you're not getting the numbers you want. You got to build it over time. Yep.
And we, wanted it to grow organically. And so we didn't put a ton of pressure on ourselves or on Dana and Wayne. As far as, downloads, we kind of kept steady pressure. We supported the social media. We do some paid posts, but a lot of it is just organically supporting the podcast that way. And then we also have a partner. So, we're available, across over 100 outlets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, very nice. You mentioned Wayne, you said he's a professional auctioneer.
Yes. Yep.
So can he do the auctioneer thing? Like, do I see 20? Can he do that whole fast talking thing?
He can, but I haven't heard him do it lately. So,
okay.
But yeah, he's written some books as well. So,
oh, cool.
He's an absolute authority in the antiques domain and industry.
Okay, very cool. That seems hard to do. It's like a trained skill. But anyway, so now keeping a podcast going for that long, into the really anything past just a handful of episodes, takes time, effort, planning. You need a production process. So how do you guys produce? Describe your production process.
Yeah, again, I can't underscore enough how great it was that Dana and Wayne came to me with this idea. And so, as I was trying to establish the team, what the org structure is going to be, MarTech roadmap, and, a lot of foundational things for the company, they were coming to me with a tactic. And so they said, we'll do the work. We'll come with ideas on what we want to do each week. And then they talk about it. So whether it's talking about, reselling concert t-shirts, or to something more antique specific, they'll pick a topic for the week and they bring those forward, and then they'll record a couple episodes, when they're together. And then we have some help. Wayne does a lot of the editing himself. But we also use a company called Resonate to help, with the podcast too. So, and I wish I could say that there was a more robust process than that, but it's really these two, talented, domain experts really bringing to me, hey, this is what we're going to do. And typically I'm like, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Let's check it out. And they just really have done a phenomenal job, and they've grown together, which happens with podcasts, is that as the hosts, get their rhythm, I think that the fun and the way that they're bringing the information forward just gets better and better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you don't need a complex production process necessarily. You just need a process that works and that's sustainable, right? With given the resources you have. And, as I think you've mentioned a couple of times, you have two hosts for this podcast that really make it work. I mean, it's kind of sounds like that's the secret sauce, right? That the talent that you kind of have in-house really is at the core of this. And I think, then that's key to any podcast. The host really matters. I mean, to your mind, what attributes do you need in a good podcast host based on your experience with these guys?
Yeah, I think that particularly if you're having two hosts, if there's a host like what you're doing and you're interviewing, I think having someone who is finding good and interesting people to interview and keeping the content via, guests, interesting and help to keep kind of a steady story. For what we're doing, I think the base knowledge, of course, is important because we really want this podcast to be a source of information and a place where people can come to learn. But it has to be fun, right? It has to be entertaining, and finding that right personality mix where they can have a little fun. There's a little bit of laughter, a little bit of banter. That all comes naturally. We don't script out the fun aspects. There certainly will come up with a topic, outline what they want to cover, who's going to cover which pieces. And then they each have their own angle. And I think that makes a difference too, so that it's very clear, at least internally. And then that shows when in the actual podcast itself, is that they know what angle each of them are coming at this, and Dana coming at it as a reseller and an eBay seller, and Wayne coming at this as kind of a very scholared resource and knowledgeable person when it comes to antiques and collectibles. And so they're able to have a little bit of fun while they're bringing valuable information to people.
Okay, so it sounds like they're each bringing a lot to the table, and not kind of overlapping each other too much. They're bringing different kinds of stuff with enough in common that it really the sum is kind of greater than the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It sounds like.
Yep. And I think they have developed that rhythm that is important when you have two hosts. Is that being able to know when the pause is there for someone else to talk, and when they're having fun, but then steering it back to the content and helping people to understand what the message is. So they've really kind of organically had that. I think it'd be hard to. It would have taken a lot more effort on my part to try and seek that out, find the two people, bring them together. They knew each other already. So they came to the table with a lot. I wish that I could take a ton of credit for that, but they brought it to me, and I just thought it was a great idea, and they've really just run with it, and it's been fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I mean, you deserve some credit for kind of overseeing the whole thing, and supporting them and keeping it going. But I think what you say is important about whether it's a single host or co-host, just like the energy and the vibe that the host or hosts bring, and the rhythm and the pace that they establish. I think that's really important. Whatever it is, it might be really fast-paced and energetic. It might be a little bit more leisurely, but that is one of the important roles of a host. And that's kind of, it's not just what they're saying, but how they're saying it, and their delivery and the rhythm of the whole thing. Right? I think that's what really important for a good listening experience.
Yeah, and it's a rhythm. We all have our multiple favorite podcasts, and we probably like them, each of them, for different reasons. But part of, why you come back is because there's something there that resonates with you, like I said, whether it's purely the content or the way that the stories are told or the way that the interviews progress. There's a what to expect, and it's a comfortable kind of feeling.
Oh yeah. Now, had these guys done any podcasting before they started this one?
They haven't.
Okay.
They both have done a lot of speaking. Dana is my director of customer education, and so we certainly have her, presenting classes and doing webinars and all of that kind of thing. Same for Wayne. He's experienced speaker and writer, he's written books. So they both have been out in the public, teaching and communicating. But this platform was new for them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but it certainly helps to have that prior experience of speaking to people and presenting and so on. So now, if you were to go back and listen to, episode 1, and then compare it to how the episodes go now, how has it evolved? How have the host and the show, grown over time?
I think that they found a great balance on the fun part. Is that they certainly have the information and all of that, but there's a comfort between the two of them that has just continued to develop, and that allows for personality to come out and allows for it to be a better listening experience. And frankly, they did great right out the gate. Both of them are very critical. They wouldn't agree with me, but that's just part of the way it is when you're assessing your own performances. But I think that they've just gotten more comfortable. The rhythm's gotten better. And so they're able to have more fun with the information as they go.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think, when you stick with a podcast, as long as you guys have, that's bound to happen. Especially when you have the same host throughout and they take it seriously and put work into it. And it takes work and dedication to make it fun and to kind of get that ease of rhythm. It doesn't just magically happen. Like, you actually have to work at it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there absolutely is pre-planning topic, key points, mapping that out. And, Wayne was passionate about this idea, and he actually learned editing so that he could edit the podcast. And so, it's something that I think if the people who are doing it have the passion for it and they're willing to invest the time and the energy, it just comes together.
Yeah, and it comes through in the final product, right?
Yeah.
Really, the audience can pick up on that. Now,
but it doesn't come out of the blue, that's for sure.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
If it's not there, you'll know it.
Now, from a marketing perspective, what kind of marketing value do you get from the podcast?
Yeah, we see it as brand value. So again, we agreed up front that this wouldn't be heavy-handed about WorthPoint. However, of course, when they're talking about, whatever the topic is, I think I mentioned earlier, rock concert t-shirts, just because that's a fun one. But, they'll point out, hey, here's what you could do on WorthPoint, and here's how you can figure out if it's, if this is really authentic, what the value is, and we'll talk about the tools that we have at WorthPoint to help you do that. But we'll talk about other ways to do things too, including, other price guides or ways to do things within eBay, if you will, or other sites that don't include us, because we want to be authentic with the content. So, we see it as a brand builder. We don't have, subscriber ROIs attached to it or affiliate link. We keep it, pretty neutral. But clearly they, are known to be WorthPoint employees. So, we're certainly not trying to pull a fast one on anyone with it.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a nice balance. And I think that's important, and actually is really important for the entertainment value, because it has to come across as authentic and not as like a commercial for the company.
Right. Yeah, because people won't come back. Yeah,
well, no one wants to listen to that.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why we skip past the commercials. There's sort of a necessary evil on old school TV. And even in podcasts, there's nothing wrong with them with a sponsor. But often people skip past because you just want to get to the good stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
I think, as when you get to, deeper into the number of episodes and you've established some trust with your audience, the only way to do that is to be authentic, right? Because you only get one chance to break that trust.
Yeah.
But as long as you hold true to the values that you want to bring to the podcast, and people develop that comfort, then you can deliver messages that are from a sponsor or have support something and do that in an authentic way. And I think we're all fine with hearing that.
Yeah,
we
100.
People are using and what's successful, what are good tools.
Yeah, 100%, right? It's fine to talk about WorthPoint in the podcast when it makes sense, right? In an organic way. And yeah, once you've built that trust with listeners, totally fine with that, right? You'll and people will even appreciate it as long as it's not the other way around.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And like I said, as long as they can go and find what they're looking for and what you told them they would find when they get there.
100%. Okay. So, well, awesome that you guys are doing so great with the podcast. Really love seeing that. So, a couple quick questions at the end here.
Sure.
Number one, what's your main focus in Q1?
Yeah. So, I mentioned that, I was brought into to WorthPoint to actually build a marketing team. So when I started, marketing was myself as the new person and Dana. And so that was marketing. And fast forward a year and a half, and I had a marketing analyst accept an offer over the weekend. Well, I gave it to him on Friday. I heard over the weekend. And we'll now be up to 12 people.
Nice.
So a product marketing team, call it brand and partnership marketing team, and analytics. And so building out the team inside of WorthPoint, and then also building out our partnerships, whether that be agency partnerships, partnerships to help us with analytics and some other things. The team is always bigger than the people you have inside. And so over the last year and a half, that's really what I've been focusing on, is kind of pulling together the team, pulling together our resources, whether they're partner resources or tools that we've added. We just stood up Salesforce Marketing Cloud, for example. And so now Q1 is really when all of this is coming together for me. So I've spent a good amount of time setting the groundwork, getting all of these things in place. And, my theme for 2022 is to do marketing, not to say it a more sophisticated fashion, but, that includes standing up, display media, doing more CRM with our existing customer base, trying some prospecting emails. So continuing to grow our social media footprint. So, things that are and sound like blocking and tackling, but it's all new stuff for us at WorthPoint. And to me, that's what's exciting. And that's the way that I've tried to direct my career, as I spent, 15 plus years with very large organizations, learned a lot from that. And now I'm trying to turn that knowledge to smaller orgs that are growing, and hopefully, pull out the stuff that wasn't good about being with a big company, and bring forward, the good stuff, as I call it, and then help, to continue to grow the company.
Yeah, that's great.
It's I'm quantitatively driven, so I'm excited to see the results. So so my priorities are stand up acquisition media, really settle in the marketing team, and focus on some big strategic partnerships that we've just started to develop here.
Okay. Awesome goals for Q1 for sure. Yeah. Next question. So what are the top 3 KPIs that your boss pays most attention to?
Yes. Okay. That's a great question. He pays attention to revenue, subscribers, and I want to say revenue and subscribers again, but actually revenue, subscribers, and churn. And as CEO, that's really what he should be looking at.
Yeah.
At this point, if we get the brand right, if we get messaging right, if we've got, our tools and tactics right, they will all result in those top level goals. And I appreciate that, because it gives me a lot of room, leading marketing for the company to figure out, what our marketing KPIs are. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and, gaining subscribers, subscriber revenue, that's really why we're here.
Yeah.
Although I'll tell you that our CEO and founder, Will Seipel, has been passionate about the collectibles and antique space his entire life. He spent, the first half of his career, I think till age 50, working for larger organizations and in some significant leadership roles. And he started WorthPoint because he saw a need, a need where his hobby was, which was collecting, buying, and selling collectibles and antiques. And he wanted to democratize pricing information. And so that was really the origin of the company. So although I, talk about revenue and so on, he built this company because it's a passion. This domain is a passion of his. But at the same time, we're running a growing business. So
Sure.
I want to make sure I'm being fair to Will, with my comments there, because he really does, he wants us to build the best possible customer experience for people who are, either long-term in the space or people that are newly entering the space. This circular economy and this kind of side gig economy. We're here to support that, and help people who are trying to do something on the side, whether it's because it's a passion or because they're trying to get another personal revenue stream going for themselves. We want to be there to help them.
Yeah, this is definitely the time to be there. Right.
Yeah.
More and more people getting into that. So that's really cool. So final question, and you might have already answered it, is what do you and your team hope to accomplish this year? And I said you might have already answered it because you just said do marketing. That's 2022.
I want to be your most sophisticated guest and say do marketing. That
just do it.
Yes, let's just make that happen. Push the marketing button. No, but I think I covered these, but it's worth saying again is standing up the team and standing up the team to do marketing. I'll say that again. But also when you're pulling together a team of people, bringing everybody together and creating a cohesive team, just like Dana and Wayne becoming a cohesive team, on the podcast, I need to do that for the whole marketing team. Right. Yeah. And so that we get a rhythm as a team and we understand each other. And then I'm also passionate about trying to make it a place where you have fun at work too. We all spend too much time together, for it not to be a fun place to be.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I think especially these days when it's hard to find good people, hard to keep them, everyone's moving around, different jobs. Yeah, if people aren't having fun at work or at least something like that, they might not stay.
Yeah, they won't. And I think just building a positive, supportive, fun culture is also something I'm as passionate about that as I am about marketing, because you see the benefits of that, and plus it feels good,
And I think it comes through in what you produce marketing wise too. If people are enjoying it and having fun, and then the marketing, the content's going to reflect that.
It does. And brands are built both in terms of, the marketing that you put out in the marketplace, but also the voice and reputation that happens organically as people come and go and do different things. So you're right. It's happy people do better, and the information gets out in the marketplace too. Hey, I hear that's a great place to work.
Yeah. Word of mouth.
Stay. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Scott, thanks for a great conversation. Sounds like you guys have a lot of awesome stuff going on. Very exciting, and that you're poised to have a great 2022. So thanks for your time and for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you.